we got a good-sized panel today. Just give me your name and your company and what city you're coming from today, and we'll start at the end.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Ji Han from Vietnam. I'm the co-founder and director of the company.
Hi, I'm Guy Cohen. I'm the CEO and founder of Spondulistic. I'm coming from Iceland.
Hello, I'm Markus Streng, CEO of Genesis Mining. We're a cloud mining company, and I'm coming from Germany.
I'm Andrew Yashuk. I'm from Chicago. Currently, I'm working on hardware integration for storage.
Good afternoon, I'm François Poupard. I'm CEO founder of Beaconbox and also founder of a mining farm based in the US, but I'm still living in Paris.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. So I think the first question that's on everybody's mind this last 12 months, obviously we've had a big price change, and we all know that that has an effect on the economics for miners. And before I get into those questions of consolidation, I just want to take a quick poll of the audience and kind of get a sense for where everybody's at. Quick show of hands, who's already familiar with the basics of mining? Give me a good sense. Pretty much everybody in the room has a good sense of mining, so I won't delve too much into the beginner stuff. Why don't we jump right into consolidation? We're starting to see some mining companies buying other mining companies, some groups moving out of the ecosystem. Give me a sense for where consolidation is going. What's the pace of consolidation, and what's the end state? Where do we get in 12 months if the price were to stay, let's say, at a similar level to today? What does that do to consolidation? We're going to start at the end here.
I think the mining will be consolidating to those low-cost areas, especially the electricity cost. And the cost to build the mining farm is also important. So that's why China maybe it's not the lowest cost in electricity, but it's now have the most hash rate over the world because the capex in China to build a mining farm is very low. Those there are not too much choices in this world, I think, to mine Bitcoin. Iceland, maybe Washington, Canada, China, or I don't have seen much area choice in this world. But maybe more. So as far as I know, sometimes in China there are some special resources for some people to get a very low cost electricity. For example, they may be a farmer, they get some kind of maybe
Subsidy?
yes, a subsidy from government, so the electricity is low, so they get to warm up their farms, things like that.
Well, what's the feeling on the panel? Is that the primary thing driving consolidation? Do you think it's electric prices and those that can really find cheap electricity and compete on that basis?
A year ago when the Bitcoin price was significantly higher, electricity prices were not that efficient, were not that significant for the whole calculation of mining. But now, since the price it dropped quite significantly, it is the component that determines your competitiveness in the market, and this is also the component that drives the consolidation in the market. So there is at the moment a kind of war on the electricity sweet spots on the planet. Everybody wants to get the most efficient places, and companies like Genesis Mining or others established player in the market have their goal to get these best places, highest efficiency places, to deploy their massive farms there, and then offer users the opportunity to purchase and invest in mining and hash power at these locations instead of having to purchase miners and building them up at home. So electricity prices, in short, are the key driver of consolidation that is currently happening in the market.
And I'm curious, the next physical barrier that the network is going to come upon is obviously the next block reward halving. As everybody knows, every 4 years the block reward halves. Originally it was 50 bitcoins per block. Today it's 25 bitcoins per block. In 2016, we'll get to our next halving, just next year, to that new 12.5 bitcoins per block level. Do you think that'll have a similar effect as it did last time? If, let's say, the price continues at the current level, whether that will really change the economics for miners? Spondulis, if you want to take that?
First of all, regarding consolidation, so we just announced our plan to merge with the Bitcoin Shop VTCS this morning. So you can say that we are post-consolidation. For us, the reason was the need to move to, in the past you could have done pretty good business by selling miners, but as the ecosystem progresses, and of course block halving will have that effect multiply. You expect ROI on much longer terms. So instead of selling the machines, you need to mine and wait 24 months and to recover the investment, etc. So it forces to move to other additional business practices that other companies in this field do. Regarding block halving, for sure, I think that if you assume current Bitcoin price will remain the same around September 2016, and unless there will be a significantly more advanced technology out there, it will have a huge impact. I think that only the strongest companies, the one that can deploy at a very low cost, will remain in the game. That's my opinion.
And additional to that, I think it's completely correct, and I think that game theoretically, mining is really a business where the ones who have the highest efficiency with the hardware and the highest efficiency due to their infrastructure, electricity prices and so on, have the best spot. So that means they are able to continue mining while others are in the reds, while others have higher expenses than their rewards, and they have to drop out. And if they drop out, according to the rules of Bitcoin and the rules of mining in general, the pie that is given out by the network, these 3,600 Bitcoins currently per day, are spread amongst the players who continue to mine. So they will be more profitable, others have to drop out. So that means if the block halving is occurring, that means a huge hit by the ones that are not in the most efficient position, because they all need to drop out, but the ones who stay in the market still get the pie.
Right. Well, how does the change in difficulty that we're seeing, Andrew, start to play into this equation? Obviously, we've seen a slowing of that difficulty rise. As one, we've almost caught up with Moore's Law as far as the size of nanometers that are the state of the art. Obviously, that has played a factor, as well as the price has played a factor in slowing the difficulty rate. I've seen some projections say it's going to double or triple this year. Obviously, that's a much slower rate of increase than we've seen in the past. Do you think that will lend itself to these miners continuing to be profitable?
I think there are a lot of miners today that are still profitable by a very tiny margin, but they're forced to sell their Bitcoins. So actually, when the reward halves, if they don't have reserves, they will have to stop. I think the difficulty is...
Or do you think it'll have the price effect large enough to change that equation? I guess that would be the other possibility.
I think what's also happening now with the difficulty is, you could say it's, relatively speaking, it's kind of flat, is because there is a lot of substitution in hardware that's occurring.
Okay.
I do not think it's going to remain flat, because there are several companies basically getting ready to deploy massive amounts of hash and power onto the network.
Next gen.
Yes, next generation.
Well, that was going to be my next question. We're hearing rumors about 16 nanometers. Some people are making claims that that's where their next chips are going to be. Can you give us some insight about that, the next generation? And feel free to jump into the other question.
Yes, well, it's definitely a race for critical size. I mean, it's all about large scale now. Including looking for cheap power, but I mean, considering the next block reward and the evolution, consolidation is inevitable as large scale and big farms will take all in the future. Current total hash rate power is 340 pH per second, and looking at the backlog of the biggest manufacturer, we expect it to triple in 2015. So it's quite important as option.
Spondolis, I know you have thoughts on the next generation as well. I'm going to get you to speak on that.
So I must say that this industry has a lot of rumors, and I should say it makes sense to spread a rumor to deter the opponent, etc. So it's really hard to know what's true and what's not. But I think that we can expect by the end of 2015 to have something between twice or 3 times the current amount of hash rate. We're starting to see next gen, let's say, sub 0.3, sub 0.25 joule per giga machines pretty soon. Pretty soon, quarter, 2 quarters, and of course it will affect the hash rate. I think that the limiting factor will become access to funds and access to low-cost electricity.
Now, there's also been a big change where the actual mining is taking place. We've seen geographies become much more substantially important. You mentioned earlier, China has really taken a big lead now. China, Mongolia, the whole area where mining is taking place. Can you give us some more color on why you think that transition is happening? Is it purely driven by electricity? Is it a combination of other cost factors? Or is there some, as you said, subsidy or something that's really driving that behavior?
Yes, it's a combination of cost. It's the first thing because Bitmain's production center is based in Shenzhen, and the shipping cost from Shenzhen to China nationwide is much lower than it's shipping to North America or it's shipping to Europe. So if we price a miner at the same price, Chinese miner will think it's very fair and very good price, but maybe Western miners will think it is too high. And right now in the market, maybe Bitmain provides a dominant choice for the miners. Some of other players are running out of stock, and some of them out of business. So Bitmain produce a lot of mining rigs, and most of them are sold in China. And the capex, which means the cost to build a mining farm, if we measure it up, how much money we spend per megawatts in China is much cheaper. So it means that Chinese people can build a mining farm with less funding raise. But this is not the case in US or in Europe. The regulation and the labor cost is very high, and the land is more expensive. So it costs too much money there to build a mining farm. But I think this situation will change maybe next half a year or 1 year, because the hydro power in North America is less expensive than in China. And maybe we can find some way to lower the expenses to build the mining farm. And if we depreciate this capex in longer term, maybe it's less cheap. It's less expensive than doing it in China. But the shipping cost is still a problem, because the mining rig right now has lots of heat sinks, which is very heavy, and we give the shipping by air. It's quite expensive.
Well, and I want to bring it back to this side of the panel and talk about deeper into these incentives. We've talked a little bit about the costs that are driving people into different jurisdictions. We've talked about the technologies and advancing, and everybody's competing to get the smallest and intermediate. But I'm interested if folks on the panel are starting to see other revenue streams that people are proposing or exploring. There's been talk of financial institutions that may be interested in getting involved or working on top of the Bitcoin rails. have a vested interest in running some of those nodes, conducting some of the mining, not necessarily even for the Bitcoin, but for being participants in setting policy of the network. Would you speak a little to that, if you're hearing about that, if you see that as a potential in the future?
Yes, actually there are several banks, it's not very, very public, but they have been investing tens of millions in mining hardware. And beyond that, I would say there is a need for hedging because there's a strong pressure on the margin of the mining farms and operation. So we are seeing some new trading instruments like turbo warrant or contract for difference being used on a more common basis to protect the margin against price fluctuation of Bitcoin. And last year the drop has been tough for many of the mining operations.
That's a pretty incredible statement. You're seeing that there are banks out there that are starting to take an active interest in mining. Are they, from what you've heard, interested in mining themselves, or they're partnering with existing companies?
So they are providing the capex or the debt to set up the operation.
So they're getting involved in the investing side of the
At the
mining.
beginning of the life cycle of the machine.
I can tell from my own experience. I mean, we have funds that invest in us, and that upgrading their hash power or investing in mining, and they're frequently, routinely upgrading their stock. So, and that's quite significant amounts of money that is flowing in there. And outside of that, I also know that from bigger financial institutions that want to leverage in Bitcoin and searching for a way how to enter the market the most efficient way. We also have partners that are looking for us to buy significant amounts of Bitcoins over the counter. So they say they don't want to go on an exchange. They go to us directly and buy Bitcoins that we freshly mined straight away, without letting anybody know. So because buying on the market would immediately mean impacting the price, buying over the counter means no impact of the price.
Is there any interest on that front when it comes to having coins that have never had other transactions involved? Does that, virgin coins that reduce the regulatory risk? Is that part of the thought process for them?
I think it's more directly financial oriented discounts or basically saving money and getting assured liquidity over a time without influencing the market. But I know it's right. There is a component to it that some businesses prefer to have freshly mined coins.
So Marco, the price is not going up because you're doing OTC deals instead of selling on the exchange. Thank you.
Well, I want to get into another aspect here. Probably most of the audience familiar. How many folks familiar with cloud mining? Cloud mining aspects? Okay. So we've also seen as the individual miners have moved out of the market of home miners, if you will, it's becoming an industrial mining game. There's also been a lot of people, I want to use cloud mining in order to still be part of this. But we've obviously seen a number of surveys. Many of the cloud mining projects have been accused of running schemes where they don't have as many Bitcoin as they claim. I want to challenge you guys to, where is the solution here for individuals that want to be involved in cloud mining? How do they know and how can they differentiate between groups that are going to disappear tomorrow and groups that can actually prove that they're doing the mining they say they're doing? Andrew, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I think the short-term solution would be some kind of physical audit, the traditional way. Long-term solution, I think it would be important for ASIC manufacturers to design the chips in such a way that the miner who's purchasing that mining contract can have cryptographic proof that their mining contract is running on X number of physical chips and it is their contract.
Right, correct. I think those are very important points. I want to give some more points for the short-term future. For example, especially now, because really the cloud mining market suffers quite some reputation because there is a lot of growing fraud occurring. because you have to see, I mean, it's a very profitable business for someone who want how can I say, to do fraud and to get a lot of money anonymously. You know, just to explain that to everybody, because it's very critical. For example, someone who says, I want to run an anonymous business. It's a perfect way to start a cloud mining operation. Anonymous, don't buy any miners, take money from the clients, claim that you're mining, and then paying out everyday coins to the clients as if they would mine. Roughly the similar amounts, or give them eventually even an unrealistically higher reward, and they think, oh, those operations have magic machines, they're even more profitable than the real ones. And that of course drives and spreads word of mouth. Hey, I'm approaching my ROI already with this operation, but in the end there is actually nothing in the bag, and it's just a pure Ponzi. And we have seen that quite a lot in the past. Operations have started, grown extremely fast, and collapsed after 3 months, and just ran away with all the money of the clients, and they have nothing to lose. They are anonymous. So they started, they make a pseudo-anonymity, they registered a homepage under a pseudonym, and then when they have enough money, they just shut it down, run away. And it is so crazy, actually, and so cruel that there was one cloud mining company that made the same scheme, and in the end, they played a song, Leave It Go or Leave It Be, or something like that, on their homepage and just vanished. It's ridiculous, and I think it's very important to educate people so that they're not running in any kinds of this trap. And I think my last estimation was that there are at the moment about, at least my count, about 38 cloud mining companies, and at least 29 of them were very highly, very likely fraudulent. And just to name maybe 2 points for immediate future, because now at the moment there is no kind of validation system that gives anyone a certainty that something is real or not. I think it's now really depending on the customer, and I think maybe those, maybe the most important points to recognize and not go into fall into a trap is, first of all, does a cloud mining company show pictures of their miners and farms? Are they really there? If necessary, to approach them and ask them whether they can get a trip through the farms. For example, we do it by providing helicopter rides for our bigger clients in Iceland over our facilities. Secondly, is the product itself, or are the prices realistic? Realistic, it's very difficult for an outsider or someone who is new to the market to see what is a realistic price. But you can, for example, take our price a bit as a reference and see if it's too way off. If it's really too way off, then you can at least conclude that eventually there is something wrong. And I think the third one is, for example, there are cloud mining operations who are offering services like click a button and boost the miner. Boost the miner now for 3 hours and get double of the payout. So something is so irrational, it's not possible. I mean, if it would be possible, why don't you want to turbo all the time, right? Why should you boost it every day? You're only allowed to boost it 3 hours or something. So that also happens. So is the product realistic? Is the price realistic? Is the transparency there? And most important, are the owners anonymous? If they are anonymous, every alarm bell needs to ring, actually, because there is no real reason why a cloud mining operator should be anonymous if they have nothing to hide.
Right. Well, no, I appreciate those points, and I think it can all be summed up by saying, do your due diligence.
Yes. Yeah.
Be careful about what you buy. Don't just take claims at face value when you're getting into it.
And we're trying to establish, or we want to establish a kind of validation that is not oriented by us. Of course, users shall validate and give the operation kind of validation that they are really valid. But at the moment, it's not. There is no such a system. So it's really up to the users, the individual users. Everybody should be educated and do their due diligence before going into the wrong direction and falling into any of these anonymous traps.
And that's really important to cover. And the last topic before we get into questions, we have about 10 minutes left. I just want to ask real quickly about what the funding environment is like. And are people having trouble raising capital as we go to the next set of chips? And is that going to further cause consolidation in the market if people can't make that leap to the next level?
So on one side, we've seen 21 huge investment. Most of it will go probably towards mining, no matter what they're saying. And we've seen KNC round, we've seen last year's reviewing rounds. So you see all the mining companies, and then of course Bitcoin Tech is here because I think down the road they will be interested in external funding, and we did our move again to increase our access to funds. So yes, funding is very important, and as we progress in the generations, the NREs, the non-recurring engineering, is becoming more and more significant. You know, doing 16 nanometer or 14 nanometer is costly, and of course production runs, etc. Repairing the mining facility. So all those stuff are extremely cash intensive, and it's the drop in Bitcoin price doesn't help. But I think that there are real opportunities to see funds into this business. The issue is that a lot of the funding opportunities, or the people that interested to invest, are looking at short-term ROI, which, for example, Genesis Mining is better equipped. You know, we give you money, you give us down the road such and such percentage, and versus doing hardcore development into a chip design, etc., which is more risky business.
Yeah, but also on that, I think we all agree mining shifted from last year within a 3-month period of ROI frame into a more longer time frame investment. But that doesn't mean that it's getting worse. I think that opens up new opportunities, because it's all about, as I explained before, having the most efficient infrastructure and efficient hardware. And when these two come together, you have a competitive advantage. And as long as you have this competitive advantage, that means that you are always in the market, and when you're approaching a kind of level where it's getting unprofitable, when you are the most efficient miner, others are stepping out before you. That means they go out of the space and leave the reward for you. That means that your profitability will increase again. So if you have this kind of efficiency degree, it's a real opportunity, but it's a longer time frame, and it's not only about 3 months of ROI or something like that.
Very good. Well, I want to take a few minutes for questions. We have about 7 minutes left. I think we have a mic. If we don't have a mic, speak loudly. But let's go ahead and open it up. We do have a mic right here, so go ahead and raise your hand. Whoever has the first question, we'll get started.
How much adversarial attacks are you guys facing in your operation and networks? Such as like hacking and DDoS and stuff like that.
We had one occasion in which, through social engineering, email for a data center operator, the small data center that we have in Israel, we have been hacked for a few hours until we cleaned it. So it happens for us once.
Yeah. For us, it happens on the software, on the homepage side. Attacks are happening every day. I mean, for hackers, I think Bitcoin is generally. Everybody knows that it's the big treasure, right? So, and when you're in the big mining operators are the most, and the exchanges are the most important aims for them, and we see that on the homepage side and also on our mining facilities. In the mining facilities specifically, because there's so much money involved in one of these places. We, for example, we had also industrialized espionage. There was one guy coming to us with an SUV completely out of the blue, and started to ask questions, and he couldn't actually, it was very badly done, so he didn't even have a plausible answer why he's here. So he should at least have thought about a nice answer that is not so obvious, right? You shoot him? I think he's still alive. No, but yeah. So it's, I mean, and yeah, so this is, espionage is happening, and also, I think regarding the security, it's critical. So we also have alarm system, we have sensors that track motion, and yes, and we do our best. Really, we work together with a security company that is really focusing on keeping the site safe.
I think we had another question over here.
Oh, hi. Okay, guys, I heard you saying about the provision of the hash rate coming up 3 times, as we have right now. And my question, I've been mining, everybody know me there, I've been mining for 3 years, and my question is, we are going to new chips, new ASICs, and everybody knows that we are going to sub 30, 28, we don't know for sure. But my question is, if we are going to 3 times the hash rate that we have right now, even those new ASICs, they will be unprofitable. So that's my question: who's gonna control that hash rate? Because if it's going three times that, if we see 3 times hash rate right now that we have, even new miners, we are talking about the new ones, the new generation, they will be unprofitable. So that is my question. Thank you.
First, when those new ASICs come into the market, older generation will be driving out of the market. So if we produce the manual rigs doubles the difficulty, and we will find that the difficulty may increase only 20% or 30%. So the older generation will be driving out of the market. So that's the first thing or the most important reason to produce the newest generation of ASICs. And maybe there is a hope that the exchange rate will be rise. So this is another kind of speculation, because when you produce many rigs, if you assume that the price stable, however, if the exchange rate of Bitcoin increase 1%, you will find the value of the mining rigs maybe have 2% or 3% of increase. So this kind of a leverage to bet the Bitcoin increasing. And take a very brief example: if your mining rigs are running at now 10% margin rate, gross margin, maybe it's almost worthless. But if the Bitcoin price doubles, so your mining rigs worth not. So this is kind of an leverage. So that's why people are still buying mining rigs now. So this is one of the reasons, because the leverages and some of the players in the market think that they can plant their hash cores into the TV set or the routers, so they will have essentially free electricity. Though I think this idea is a little bit crazy, but it's kind of rational. Okay.
Yeah, so just one thing, I think this is a very critical point, and probably the most important question for every miner. And I can assure you, although very few points are certain in the mining business, but I can tell you that a scenario where it will be unprofitable for all miners, that will not happen. Because this cannot happen, because then nobody would mine, right? So it's always like that. It can only be unprofitable for some persons in the spot, and that is why, because other miners are in a better efficiency spot where they still continue to make profit, while others have worse conditions and they have to drop out. And that way, I think I agree to Jian. I think at the moment it's a real opportunity, especially the prices due to the Bitcoin drop. Hardware manufacturers are giving out hardware for very, very cheap prices. That means if you are going now into the mining business and the price is rising, that will become a huge rush again. And I can only tell you what we have experienced end of 2013 when the price rose from 100 to 1,000. It was incredible, right? Everybody saw, oh no, the price is now at 1,000. Oh my God, I missed to buy before when the Bitcoin price was low. So now, okay, I just buy miners. It's still a way to get cheap Bitcoin. But everybody thinks so and knows that. So everybody blasts huge amounts of money in mining. The problem is that there are not endless chips, right? And there are not endless capacities on the planet. So there would be a huge rush. And at some point, all the mining hardware will be sold out again if the Bitcoin price is rising. So it needs to be waited until new chips are produced. So in that scenario, clearly everybody who already has miners or already bought hash power in the cloud will be in a much more favorable position.
Yeah. So I think we have time for just one more question. I've got one back here in the white. And I'm sure you can corner these guys afterwards. Be happy to talk with you as well.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yep.
My question is, if all this development, if it benefits chip development and electricity production outside of Bitcoin in general?
Will we start moving Moore's Law forward? It's a good question. Who wants to tackle it?
This question, I think it is a very long-term question. That I think if the coin do not mine, we cannot see a signal that people are putting confidence, real confidence, into this coin. So lots of coins are doing POS or some other kind of algorithm that don't need to mine. But then you cannot find any evidence that people are very confident about this coin. Because if you don't see people are investing money into their mining business, and I think Satoshi's design for the Bitcoin is very smart. That the reward for every block is halved every 4 years, which means that this is not an endless game. At least for the first 3 years of the coin, people will see the confidence, real investment from the hash rate increase. I think that's one of the reasons. If a coin want to be successful, we should start to mine. And yes, lots of money are spent on the hardware, on the electricity. But if without this kind of expenditure, actually it's not so that much compared with some other kind of clearing system in the financial market. This deliver a very much clear signal that people are confident in this new asset.
So, with all the respect to Bitcoin, and I have a lot of respect, I don't think that Bitcoin has enough financial incentive to drive or improve Moore's Law. It's still tiny industry compared to mobile or whatever. So the incentive to keep producing better and better processes with smaller and smaller gap is there without regards to Bitcoins. But in the same process node on 28, we've seen more than 1 joule per gigahash, and I believe that eventually somebody will even be able to do sub 0.1 or 0.05. So 20x improvement on the same process node. There is still a lot to be done in terms of non-standard cell design, custom design on a given process node. So after we will see 16 nanometer or 40 nanometer miners, we will see if the incentive will be the Bitcoin price will be reasonable, we'll see a second generation 14 or 16 and third generation 14 and 16 before we'll see a 10 nanometer or 7 nanometer.
Great. Well, I want to thank my panelists today. Appreciate a round of applause for our folks here. Excellent panel. And, that's all our time for today, so I'll let you guys talk to us.
right, folks, we've got a 30-minute break, so well, 25 minutes. So please join us back.